Okay, so I've started recording. So yeah, as I was saying, this is my first Unlaid Walk with Sarah virtually because usually we meet, once a month, every fourth Saturday in the park. I talk about something, health related, and we walk around for about 2 miles and we all go back home. But because the weather today has not really been on the good side, it's gloomy, it's wet, it's rainy, we're doing this virtually. And I had the pleasure of being able to invite a guest speaker to talk to you about a great topic that's really relevant for us in this season, this winter season. So before I get started, I'm going to introduce Mr. Kyle Tums. So Mr. Kyle Tums is a certified nutritional specialist and a personal fitness trainer. He studied health, wellness, and nutrition, and he has provided guidance and education to community members and groups on the importance of nutrition for over 20 years. He is passionate about helping individuals improve their overall well-being and lifestyle through healthy activities, choices, and eating habits using an holistic approach. So I will open up the mic, so to say, to Mr. Kyle to talk about best immunity practices for the season. So go ahead, Mr. Kyle.
So, Sarah, thank you. Thank you, first of all, so much for having me on. I'm very excited. Um, been looking forward to this. And to all the friends who are listening and who will be listening to what is now going to be recorded, thank you very much for joining. What an important topic to talk about when we're dealing with and talking about our immune system, how we can boost it, how we can keep it strong and potent. What's really near and dear to me is quality of life, right? So I hear often that people talk about aging or they get another birthday and I'm going to turn 25 again or I'm going to turn 30 again. And then if they're a certain age, oh, they're over the hill. You know what this means. And a lot of people give into and acquiesce to age and aging. Aging is a natural process, but it doesn't have to mean that because you hit a certain number, you're now reaching some level of being disabled unless you are giving in and acquiescing to it. In this nation, our challenge with nutrition and health and wellness it is directly related to the foods that we consume. Okay, I want to say that again. Our health and wellness is directly related to the foods that we consume. Foods are your fuel for this body temple to be able to function at its optimal level. Food's the fuel. The quality of the fuel that you put into your machine is going to have a direct effect on your quality of life. Okay. How does that connect to the immune system? The immune system is a function of the body like seeing, smelling, hearing, tasting, touching, your extrasensory perception, and it requires a fuel. So the best fuel that you can give your body is the highest form of food. So Sarah recently, which I really love, did a whole theme on hydration, right? That's the key component to beginning to boost your immune system because the body needs fluids to reach a certain pH level. And in this society, especially this Western society, most of us tend to be on the acidic side. Okay. You want to be in a sweet spot of about 7.3 to 7.4 on your pH balance scale. You can go to your drugstore and you can get taste testers that will measure your saliva pH level. And if you have questions or concerns about it, it's a good thing to do. And then the next thing is to kind of record what it is that you're putting into your body, right? Take assessment of it. We eat a lot of things that are deemed as treats, such as comfort foods, mac and cheese, potato chips, French fries. And so those are just three things that are high sodium content. Now, sodium you need and glucose you need, which is sugar. Those are two components the body needs to survive. But what happens is we tend to overdose on this. So the body tastes something salty and wants more salt. because it realizes sodium is needed to level out our pH balance. It wants glucose because it knows that glucose charges your mind, your body, your soul, everything about your body, but we overdose on it. We take in too much. And we do this over a course of time. And this is what causes debilitations in our body, in our musculature, in our immune system. And then we correlate this with, oh, I'm 35, I'm 40, I'm 45, I'm 50, I'm 55, I'm 60, I'm 65, I'm 70. But every once in a while, what's really interesting to me, and I point this out when I speak to folks, every once in a while, you look on the internet, and as you see these current stories of current events, every few months, you'll see some 70 plus, 80 plus person who swam a channel. You'll see some 70, 80, or 90 plus person who ran a marathon. And all they're doing is they are providing their body temple machine with the correct fuel to be able to do the task that they're charging the body with, which is, I want to run this thing. I want to skydive. I want to swim this channel. And so if they're putting the fuel in the body is an adaptation machine. It's going to achieve one thing or the other. And we're always laying the building blocks for one course or another for our health. If we're not taking assessment of it, we just don't realize it. But we're laying the building blocks for it. So when you lay the building blocks to do the walks with Sarah, to do the walks on your own, to when it's inclement weather, go up and down your steps 5, 6 times. Take your time. Do it at your pace. Increase your pace as you become more accustomed to the challenge. That's one of the things that I like to do, either be in my home gym or just go up and down the steps. That's all. When you're working, most of us are remote, or at least hybrid at some point in time. When you're in your chair, stand up and down 25 times. See how many times you can do that within an hour. Have your hydration, your water right there with you, and sip your water. We should be getting anywhere from 1 to 3 liters of water today, depending upon your level of activity, right? So this is very important. What else helps boost the immune system? Vitamin C and vitamin D. Vitamin C we have to consume. Vitamin D is very important because most of us don't get enough of it. Okay, and there are standards that are not complete and not really specific enough to each individual. So for instance, you'll hear get 15 minutes of sunlight a day if you can. Well, if you have more melanin in your system, in your being than others, you can require 45 minutes to an hour of sunlight. Okay, and really, even if you are fair-skinned or Caucasian or Asian, you need a minimum of 20 minutes of sunlight to properly let the sunlight hit the pituitary gland and release the vitamin D in your system. Now, a lot of folks will say, well, too much sun, or Kyle, an hour of sun. I've heard that, you shade yourself and put on your sunscreen, and you'll hear that. And it is your choice. But I will tell you that when I'm in a pool, sometime I'll lightly put calamine lotion on my nose and on the tips of my ears, or I'm clean shaven on the top of my head. I'll put just a calamine lotion. I don't use the sunscreen. And this is what I'll challenge you to do. Read the back of your sunscreen. Okay. One of my mantras is, the front is the commercial. The facts are in the back or on the side. Read labels of your foods. The facts are in the back. The front is the commercial. Low sodium, low sugar, gluten-free. Sometimes gluten-free things have just as much or more sugar byproducts than something that isn't gluten-free. You're just trading sugars when it's a lot of potato starch and tapioca starch, and you're just trading sugar. So make sure you're reading to understand what you're consuming, because it's not your fault. It's like most of us, we're raised on, you're at some point in time, you're a child, you go to the store with your mother and you help shop and you get this off the shelf. And what happens is your mind records that the store has food in it that you need to survive, right? So what has happened with corporate greed and with people not just caring enough about their next fellow human being is that they found ways to addict us to foods. They found ways to keep us coming back for foods that deteriorate the body slowly over time, because they don't want you to drop dead right now because they want your money. They want to bleed you like a battery. I don't mean to be so harsh early in the morning, but I do want to drive the point because I want to plant the seeds so that you can connect the dots to thoughts, connect the dots to thoughts. And that is thinking about what you are giving your family and your loved ones and what you are giving yourself, thinking about what you are putting into your body, into your temple, into your machine, thinking about what you're giving to your loved ones. It's vitally important because what happens is over the course of 15, 20 years, that's when you start to have a debilitating experience. And we correlate that with blowing out the candles on a birthday. It's not really the fact. Fact is that you've been eating a certain type of bread for 15, 20 years, and it has been accumulating building blocks. And you fact is that you have been eating a certain type of boxed macaroni and cheese over the course of uh, a couple of decades, and it has been building the building blocks, paving the way for you to be debilitated. Because there's documentation that actually shows that a lot of ingredients and things that we eat, and tuna helper, hamburger helper, Kraft macaroni and cheese, your daily basic breads that you get. Read your bread after we're done. When you're done listening to this, read your bread and see how many forms of sugar you have. I will tell you that sugar, of course, is a form. Brown sugar is just white sugar with molasses poured on it. So that's two right there. Marley is going to break down in your body into a glucose. Um, any dextrose is going to break down into sugar in your body. And you're going to see in your bread, you're going to have anywhere from 5 to 7 different forms of sugar in your bread that you get off of the shelf in the supermarket. So right there, you're overindulging the amount of glucose that your body needs. If you get chicken cutlets, if you get eggplant cutlets, that's bread. The problem with bread in the Western society is that it is sprayed with glyphosate, which is a chemical that keeps the insects off. But they also use chemicals. Instead of wheat growing 6 feet, they grow it dwarfed. And it makes the processing and taking the moisture out of the wheat quicker if it's dwarfed. But this GMO process is not good for the human body. So when we're eating anything that is a wheat product, spaghetti, macaroni and cheese, noodles, bread, you're slowly giving debilitating blocks to your body and your health, which is going to affect your immune system. That's a fact. We have to get back to making our own breads, or I will share with you the only bread that I buy store-based. You can go online, or you have to go in the frozen section because it's not made to last for weeks. Like your bread is commonly when you go to the supermarket and get it off the shelf. It's been there for weeks, sometimes over a month, because it's preserved. It's mummified. It's mummified products that are able to have a shelf life. But this particular brand is called Base Culture, Base Culture, Culture. It's made out of almond flour. So if you do have a nut allergy, read your labels. The facts are in the back. But if you're not, it also has some flaxseed in it and very few other products and ingredients. And you'll see it's about 7 or 10 ingredients in it, as opposed to your 15 to 20 that's in your regular bread. And you can get this with seeded seeds on top, not sesame seed, pumpkin seeds on top, and sunflower seeds. Or you can get it plain, or you can get it kind of like an almond bread that almost tastes kind of like a dessert, actually. But that's a good product. Other than that, we should be. And I look, and I constantly look, and I constantly read, and there are others. I know a lot of folks. Myself, back in the day, I used to eat Ezekiel bread, but it has gluten in it, and that's the problem. Wheat, gluten, and wheat is it debilitates us here, not in blue zones like in Italy or Cara, Greece. They're making their bread and they're living into their 100s. If you've heard of the blue zones, you're living into your late 90s, into your 100s. These centurions who are in great shape and they're moving. See, the other piece to your immune system is to move. We don't move a lot. I love Sarah's theme on walking, moving. The chemical process that it basically tells the body, without getting too technical, is we have a task. We're going to walk. That means we have to start churning out chemicals and blood and all the things it needs to power the body to do this walk. And the body's adaptive, it will do that. But if you're not doing that and you start just not replacing activity time, see, back in the day, well, let me speak for myself. I would go to the clubs and I would dance for 5, 6 hours on a Friday and a Saturday. And that's my workout for the whole week. I'm burning, 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 burning. And I will burn up a dance floor even right now, but I digress. Um, what happens is you get a quote unquote real job and you get a family or a significant other. You don't replace that time. When we would wake up in the morning, we would play football or basketball. Then we would go to the mall, walk around and get clothes. Then we would go to the club for 5, 6 hours and dance. And 2 days in a week, I mean, we've, you've done your workout for the entire week. But then when you get the real job, you get a significant other, you expand your family, you lose that time of activity. And that's the problem. We don't find the time to do the walk with Sarah. We don't find the time to find some place where we can dance
Someone is reading the version. But so you lying down. You didn't read it.
excuse me,
This
if
one is the
someone,
version.
it might be Ebenezer, if you could please
Okay, I
mute.
know. But when I told you to read it earlier on, you went straight to
Uh, we might be competing for a moment, but that's all right too. We're gonna adapt just like the body does. And you have to replace that activity time. If you replace your activity time with good nutrition, you're going to be able to be one of these folks who swims a channel in their 70s, 80s, or 90s, or runs a marathon in their 70s, 80s, or 90s, or starts weightlifting in their 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s. And it can all be done. And if you all think about it, you've seen it from time to time on the internet. This stuff is for real. It does happen. You have to imagine it in your mind. Everything starts with your imagination. Then connect the dots to thoughts. Think about what you're giving your loved ones, because when I'm preparing food for my family, I'm thinking about the health that I'm giving them. I'm thinking therapeutically when I'm chopping celery or chopping beets or what have you, what the components and chemicals are going to do in our bodies. Okay. And another thing is I want to begin to wrap up with alcohol. A lot of times we live for alcohol on the weekends. Now, wine 2 or 3 times a week is not bad because you have components in it, resveratrol, which helps with your skin, which helps with healing. But when we overindulge with the beers and the hard grain liquors, not only are those hidden calories, all your rums and things like that are hidden calories, but you're also debilitating the body. And we just, as a society, acquiesce to that. Now, I'm not casting judgment. Now, I don't drink or smoke just for health reasons. And so people will say, well, how do you let loose? How do you have a good time? It's easy. I just do it. It's easy. We produce chemicals in our body that create alcohol. We produce in your body right now, you have a trace amount of THC. Some people will light up a joint to get high. You have the component in your body already. And if you do certain breath techniques, you can reach that natural high. And I'll prove it to you. Have you ever been with a family member or a friend or gone to a concert and laughed so much you began to get lightheaded? Your jaws were hurting. You felt almost weightless because you were laughing so hard. Your breathing in that rhythm tapped you into your own natural THC, into your own alcohol content. You don't even need to go to the store and make a company rich. unless you want to. Again, I'm not casting judgment. My point that I'm driving is the body produces everything that it needs for you to be healthy and well. It's just tapping into the reserves, and then it's providing fuel. In this cold season, I want to close with, it's good to get yourself some elderberry and take that every day or every other day if you have the sniffles. But the most potent thing that I love is oil of oregano. Get some oil of oregano. Have that in your cabinet for your family. It tastes like gasoline. So have a chaser of juice or something until you get used to it. But I gave it to my son whose throat was scratchy. I have it in like a little droplet, put it in the back of his, feeding him like a bird. And after he was coughing, because it is strong, and he was like, Dad, this is incredible. You're not going to believe me, but it feels like my throat is healing right now. I'm like, that's how fast that oil of oregano works. You feel a little tickle or scratchiness in your throat, put some oil of oregano back on your tonsils. You'll be amazed. Do this for 2 or 3 weeks on, give yourself a break for a week or two, and then go right back to it. If you do catch a cold, you'll have a cold for about maybe 2-3 days max. If you're doing that with hydrating, it'll knock it right out. It'll knock it right out. 2 years ago, I had COVID and I had a temperature for 3 days. And after 3 days, I had no more symptoms. And that's part of my protocol. Hydration, oil of oregano, elderberry, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C. And you can get vitamin D from the sunlight, and you can get it from mushrooms. You can also get it from organ parts. I don't eat red meat. I'm a flexitarian. I will have chicken or fish if it's wild caught or if it's free range chicken, mostly from halal or kosher, because the slaughter process is they don't just break the neck. When we get our Wendy's chicken and Chick-fil-A, and you have toxic shock syndrome because the bird releases uric acid, which is from your urine, internally, and we're eating that. And there's documentation that that's directly related to our high stress levels, especially in this country. We're consuming uric acid from animals when you eat your regular hamburgers and your regular chicken, because they know that they're being killed. The term, you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, it's because when the neck is broken, the chicken's still alive. When the cow is cut or the pig is cut from the cadavers down, it sees its insides, it goes into toxic shock. Halal and kosher use a sharp knife, serrated, they cut the jugular, and they let the animal roam around. And then the animal falls asleep, passes out, and passes away peacefully, no toxic syndrome. So then you're not consuming that uric acid. So I would urge you to find a halal or kosher butcher near you. Just Google it and get your chicken there. You'll taste the difference, and try to get it skinless, because you don't need the saturated fats, the extra saturated fats. And so we're just a couple minutes over. I want to turn it back to my friend Sarah, see if there are any questions that she or anybody may have.
This is amazing. I've learned so much. I mean, you learn a little bit in school, and but because of your wealth of experience and your education, I've learned so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's just so much information. So I'm opening up the podium to anyone that wants to ask any questions. Do you have any questions to ask him?
And they can chat also if they have a question, right,
Yeah,
Sarah?
you can leave something in the comment section if you don't want to talk. I will read out the question, and then we can we can answer your question. This is really great,
Yeah.
There was one thing that stood out when you said the vitamin D, a lot of, I mean, if you test any black, African American, anybody with dark skin, their vitamin D level is in the toilet. We don't have vitamin D level. And you saying spending 45 minutes, usually they're like, oh, spend 10, 15 minutes, but you actually have to spend a long time, in the sun.
And if I may just add, my friend, that's not through a window. You're not getting the proper UV light through a window, even when you can feel the magnification of the heat from the sunlight. You have to get outside.
Mm.
So Go for a walk for 15, 20 minutes in the morning and in the afternoon, in the evening, or sit on your porch, or just get as much as you can, and or supplement with mushrooms. Have mushrooms any day: button mushroom, shiitake, lion's mane, turkey tail, cordyceps, high potent mushrooms. Okay. And then you're getting your vitamin D, and you're supplementing, a little bit of sunlight with some mushrooms. So that's another option that you can use to reach that optimal health. Because in this country, especially, 74% of us are overweight or obese. And that means you're outside of your shape. That's what out of shape means. You have a skeletal structure. Your skeletal structure is meant to hold a certain amount of weight from here to there, whatever that may be. My sweet spot is around 170 to 182. That's what I can fluctuate with. And when you're over that, you're outside of your shape. You're out of shape. There's too much on your skeletal system. And that's when you have swollen feet. That's when you have swollen calves. That's when your joints hurt, your knees, your hips, just from a regular day of walking around and being alive. You shouldn't have those pains and ailments. So optimal weight is important.
That's really true. That's really true. I can say that for myself too. When I get a little bit overweight, I can feel it. My back
So can
starts hurting. I feel very tired. I just don't feel right. So there's always a sweet
right.
spot, as you said, there's a sweet spot, plus or minus maybe like 2 or 3 or 4 pounds in between. I mean, you don't want to be obsessing over the scale also, but just knowing that at
Mhm.
least
Right.
your fat percentage, we want to have more muscle than fat. So
Correct.
those are the things that you need to consider, and not
Yeah.
just, oh, I want to be 120, but is that really
Yeah.
what you need to be? So
Right.
that's a great point. Um,
Yes, and don't go by the standard, the national standard, because to Sarah's point, 120 might not be your optimal weight. You don't want to be skin and bones. You want to have good lean muscle mass, which burns fat. So that's where you want to be, for sure. Mhm.
yeah. All right. So far we don't have any questions. As I
Mhm.
said, this recording, this webinar or this talk is going to be recorded. It's going to
Yeah.
be housed in my Facebook group. I'm going to post. Oh, okay. Oh, somebody just had a question. It said, "What are the key vitamins that we should take daily?" One person said, "What are the key vitamins we should take daily?"
Excellent question. So the key vitamins you should take is really CMOS. You get it all there, and it will be distributed properly as opposed to synthetic. Now, there is a supplementation which I keep, which is vitamin D, because to Sarah's point, you want to make sure you have enough vitamin D. You need that for good musculature. You need that to boost your immune system. So I get it in the droplets. I don't like the chelated synthetics. So I like the liquid. Vitamin C, you can take, or you can get it from your fruits. You can get it from pomegranate. You can get it from oranges. You can get it from kiwi. So
I'm
you
sorry,
can,
I'm sorry, can I just chime in? We have
yeah,
5 more minutes, but
okay.
you guys still want to stay on. If we get disconnected, you can log back into the same link if you still want to keep talking to Kyle and if you have time. But just to let you know, we only have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes. Um, and also people can, if you have a question, and this is what I do as a public service, anyone who takes a picture of a protein drink or any kind of food and sends it to me at 973-418-4135, and I'll repeat that again, or it's on the recording. I will tell you if it complements or compromises your health. And I'll do that free of charge. That's just so people can begin to connect the thoughts to dots of what they're eating. I like the fact that people send me labels and make sure it's the back. The facts are in the back. The front's the commercial. If you have any question of any powder, any supplement, any food, your lean cuisine, anything, take a picture of it. I'll let you know if it complements or compromises your health. But you want the vitamin C, you want the vitamin D. And now I get sea moss from Wild Vineyard. It's online and it's petrified in sea salt. You soak it for 24 hours. You rinse it again, you chop it up, put it in your blender, add some water, and it looks like applesauce. And I put it in a mason jar, and then I freeze the rest of it, and it takes me right on through the season. It'll last you about a good, I would say, 6 months. Actually, you get about 4, 5, 6 mason jars, and you take 2 tablespoons of that, and then you've knocked out your vitamins right there. So that's what I do, and then I'm thank goodness I'm in very good health. So and then someone else, I think they asked a question of the bread. It's
Yeah.
Base Culture, BASE Culture, CULTURE, and or talk to your mom or your grandmother and get a bread recipe and make your bread and try to do it from teff flour, which is an African grass, actually, TEFF. It's gluten free. It makes delicious pancakes and waffles. I do it every weekend for my family. It's lower in calories than wheat. Or in a pinch, you can use old-fashioned oats, not quick oats, because that will contain sugar. Old-fashioned rolled oats. Put it in your Ninja or your Bullet for about 45 seconds, and you have oat flour. Oat flour cooks very similarly to wheat flour. You get the gluten out. I hurt my back a few years ago. I couldn't even do a push-up. I couldn't exercise for months. I was gaining weight. And I'm like, how am I gaining weight? I eat wild salmon. I eat halal chicken. But in the end, a calorie is a calorie is a calorie. And I wasn't moving or burning. So I said, I have to change what I'm doing. I cut out wheat. It's about 7 years ago. Weight just started falling off me. I couldn't do an exercise. Weight was falling off of me. That's from wheat. Because the gluten is a sticky protein, and food sticks to that gluten, and then that gluten sticks to the inside of your body, and then it starts fermenting, and you get little explosions of gas. A lot of times people say, Kyle, I got to get rid of this pot belly. What do I do? And I can tell from their belly, sometimes it's just carbs. It's carb gas, especially if you see someone who's got like thin arms or thin legs, but they got this stomach. That's a carb stomach. Usually when you gain weight and it's saturated fat, visceral or subcutaneous underneath the skin fat, you're kind of you get fat all over. But when you just have a gut, that's from beer, carbs, that's from French fries, that's from all those other simple carbs. You want complex carbohydrates, fruits and vegetables. Simple carbs will create gas explosions in you and blow you up, make you think you're more fat than what you really are.
Very interesting. Oh my goodness. This is really a very powerful session. Great
But
information.
we'll have to do it again sometime, Sarah, and we'll have to do it with a walk. I would love to team up with you.
Definitely. As I do this, every fourth Saturday of the month, we do the actual walk where we walk around the park. But I think we have more, sometimes, there'll be room for the virtual events, because, you can get more people, so we can record it. So yeah, definitely. I will invite you to the next walk. It's going to be next month. We'll pick another topic and then we'll go from there. Thank you so much. So as I said, it's going to be recorded. I'm going to link this in the Facebook group. You can always go back and listen to it. You can invite people to the Facebook group to get information or whatnot. So yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Sarah. In closing, I want to say if people want to just read some things about the journey and read about being attuned and atoned for what you put in your body, my website is Here to Health You, the letter U. Here, HERE, to TO, health, HEALTHU, the letter U.com. Here to Health You.com. You'll hear about my story and my journey, because I was once overweight. The doctor put me on a diet. So I feel you. I'm just saying it can be done. And the more you connect the dots to thoughts, you're going to rewire your brain. And then you're going to automatically know that there's certain things that you don't eat and then you're not going to want to give it to your family once you start finding out these things, because we're making corporations rich. And then they get us on medications that don't heal us anymore. We live with the medication, with the side effects. And sometimes you got to take a medication to offset the side effects of the other medication. So break that cycle.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Now this comes to the end of our session. So, hope you guys have a great day. Go out, take a walk, choose healthy foods, and yeah, have a great weekend. Bye,
Have a
everyone.
great weekend.